If you're an empath and you are dealing with insomnia, this is the place for you to be right now. So, I want to tell you that if you're an empath dealing with insomnia, it's actually a very normal thing. There is a reason why we as empaths tend towards insomnia more than others. And it's not necessarily what a lot of other people deal with, sort of non-empaths deal with, in terms of it just being stress or financial stress or relationship stress. It's something much more specific. But as I head into this topic, I want to also say that there are a lot of medical reasons that can cause you to have insomnia. So please do things like going to your doctor and talking to them if you're having severe insomnia, because insomnia will just wreck you on so many levels. Okay. So go to the doctor. Get your hormones tested. A lot of times you can have hormones. I am not a hormone expert. A lot of times your hormones can be quite off, whether it's your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, or cortisol, which is our fight or flight. I have found in my practice, and again, I don't test cortisol, but in dealing with so many empaths in my practice, empath healers, empath therapists, one of the things I have noticed is that we as empaths, I'm going to move this over here, we tend to be people who have higher cortisol because we are picking up so much. And so our system tends to be in fight or flight a lot more than the average person. We are way more hypervigilant than the average person. We are way more aware of all the little changes, all the little things that go on that the average person isn't paying that much attention to. We're feeling them as if it's like screaming at us. So cortisol can be a component, certainly, of insomnia. Obviously, things like negative relationships and financial stress and other things. So please do get those kinds of helps as well if those are things that you are dealing with. Things like depression and anxiety can also certainly feed into this. And ironically, having insomnia or bad sleep quality often will give you the symptoms of depression and anxiety, as it did me, as a matter of fact. So about a year ago, I just went through a very difficult period with just a lot going on. And I developed insomnia and I started to feel very anxious, very depressed. It's really out of the norm for me to feel either of those things. But it was really getting pretty intense to the point that I was in tears, honestly, sometimes just out of the blue, feeling really off, really wrong. So I did finally go and talk to a psychiatrist, actually, because I was trying to figure out what's going on. And she thankfully was able to help me see that when I did get sleep, I was not having the symptoms of depression and anxiety that I was having, so that it was more sleep related than it was anything else clinical or medical as far as that goes. Depression and anxiety certainly are very real. In my case, it happened to be the insomnia. So I want to talk about then, as an empath, and this is the work that I ended up doing on myself, why do we tend more towards insomnia or having a much more difficult time sleeping or resting than the average person? And the reason is because we are what I call the canaries in the coal mine, meaning we are always vigilant and very aware. Our nervous system is literally tuned tighter. And there's now actually really good research showing that we are literally, our nervous system is actually much more sensitive than the average person's nervous system. And so we are tuned in such a way that we are constantly assessing and aware of every little change around us. And that's good. You know, if you look at it from like a biological perspective, it's a needed skill for survival in a lot of ways. Like, we're the ones going, hey, something's really off. We need to get out of here, you know? And like, that it's actually a needed skill. A lot of times we get criticized for having this sort of hypersensitivity or hypervigilance, but the truth is it's an extremely needed skill. And it is, and when we use it for ourselves, it's actually a really great thing. But the problem is, if we don't know how to turn it off, sometimes, if we don't know how to let go of things at the end of the day, sometimes, then we end up in this constantly hypervigilant state, which even tells us, and even in our subconscious, which of course at night, we're supposed to be kind of allowing our subconscious to do some processing. Well, we're still connected to everything and we haven't put any of that down. We're going to be in a hypervigilant state. We're going to be anxious and worried and overwhelmed. Okay. So how do you start to be aware of what's going on? Number one, admitting that you're an empath and admitting that you actually are taking in the pain and suffering and emotions of everyone everywhere. A lot of times when we are coming up as an empath, we don't know anyone else. We don't even know that term. we will think, sort of what's wrong with us, and, why are we so sensitive? Everyone else can go like sit through a violent movie and we're, running out of the theater like I'm going to throw up. Literally happened to me. Why are those things? It doesn't make any sense, right? So one of the first things that I find when I work with people is that just that feeling of like, oh my gosh, this is okay. This is normal for a person who is tuned like this. Like there's nothing wrong with me. This is literally just who I am, and I am tuned this way. That immediately helps, because at that point now you can say, yes, I do take on everyone else's pain and suffering. Yes, I am aware of all the little changes in the atmosphere and in the world. And I am aware of all the little frequency changes all around me, the little wavelength changes all around me. I am aware of that. That is a very real thing. Okay. And so once you do that, now you can say, now what do I do about it? This is who I am. This is what it is. Now what do I do about it? So the next thing you want to do is you want to, at the end of the day, you want to do something I call the detach practice. Now, the detach practice is something I use all the time. I didn't do a great job of using it for a little while, and definitely didn't help with the insomnia at that point. So I'm back to using it all the time. And the detach practice is super, super simple. You're going to lay in bed, close your eyes, and you are going to imagine that you can look down over your body and you can see if there are any sort of connections that are still going out from you to anyone or anything or anywhere in the world, okay? And you might be, the first thing I want to say is you want to trust your intuition here, okay? So if you sense a connection there, there's a connection there, and trust it, okay? So the connections, when you look inside and you close your eyes and you just imagine what these connections might look like, I'll just tell you, and your experience will be your own, but I'll tell you my own experience and the experience of those that I work with and kind of what they tend to see. So my own experience, a lot of times it will look like kind of an energetic ribbon that goes from some portion of my body, some part of my body, out to someone or something or somewhere in the world. Maybe, something's going on in the world and I'm really worried about it. There's this emotional and energetic connection. So for me, it tends to look like ribbons. Now, I've had empaths where it's looked like chains, it's looked like string, it's looked like electrical cords, like, an electrical cord you might have plugged into the wall. So it's going to look like whatever. Trust whatever it looks like for you. It might look like even heavy, heavy chains, depending on how heavy this connection is, right? And so you want to pay attention to that. The next thing you want to do is you want to take your attention to one of these connections, okay? And you want to just actually look that connection in the eye or look towards it. And you want to say, I am now choosing to release myself from this right now. And you pull the cord. You actually see yourself like pulling the cord, or you can see yourself cutting the cord if you want to. You can also say, if it's something that you've dealt with from the day, you can say, I am releasing myself from this so I can rest. And I trust that I will have answers by the morning. Okay. And you can then cut it or pull it. Okay. So you just are, the main thing is that you're knowingly, energetically choosing to disconnect from whatever it is you're connected to. Now, if you happen to be a healer, a healer, a coach, or a therapist, you especially want to be paying attention to this, because a lot of times, I am, and you will likely be worried about your clients throughout the day or your patients. And because of that, a lot of times we have a very hard time putting that down. And so sometimes if that's something that you're finding, or if you as an empath in general are finding you have something in your life you're really worried about, what I will often do is I will ask that a higher power, and it does not matter whatever higher power you believe in, is great. So whether it's God, spirit guides, angels, whatever, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Whatever you believe in is the most important thing. Call upon them. And as you're trying to release from that connection, say, I now ask that you bring peace and love and hope, and you watch over this person as I sleep. And you literally can even imagine sending that energy or that higher power, your spirit guides, or whatever you want to call it, over to that person to watch over them. And I find that a lot of times for empaths that are really worried about people in their life, that can be something that just allows you to feel soothed and like you can release and relax. Okay. So that's number one. doing the detach practice will, in my opinion, be a real game changer if that's something you're dealing with. The final thing I want to talk about is a lot of times we do, again, our nervous system will be vibrationally, literally vibrating from anxiety and worry throughout the day, or anxiety and worry over all of these things. So the detach will help a great deal. I also created a guided meditation I call Releasing Anxiety and Worry for a Restful Night's Sleep. So if that's something that you would love, this is a really effective one to help you. It has a really beautiful visual in there to help you put down a lot of the anxiety and worry you might be dealing with right now. And if that's the case, just check in the comments under, or the info underneath this video, and you can go grab that meditation. All I ask is that if you use that meditation, please come back and give me a comment and let me know how that worked for you. Okay. If you love this video, or you'd like to see more of this for empaths, for anxiety, for insomnia, or really any topic, please make sure that you're liking and subscribing. It helps me so much. If you know somebody who's an empath who is dealing with anxiety, worry, and insomnia at night, please go ahead and send this video to them. Until next time, to your beautiful health.